Good evening, 4th grade. Today's comparing fractions strategy is comparing fractions by comparing them to a benchmark. So go ahead and write that as the title on your next free page in your math notebook, then close it up. Mark your page, then close it up, and then unpause when you're ready to go. All right, so I spent the last 2 days, especially the last one day, teaching you a strategy to compare fractions when they were really close. You know, fractions like, say, like 1/4 and 1/3. Those fractions are really close in size, and so to compare them, you need a really precise way to tell. So what we did, we went through a pretty long strategy where we would, draw a fourth, draw a third, and then say, well, if I really need to know for sure, third looks a little bigger, but that could just be because my drawings are a little off. If I really want to know, what I've got to do is change them both to equivalent fractions that have the same denominator. Because then I can just count pieces and say, well, if they've got the same denominator, it's easy to tell. So what we did is we kind of figured out, well, if I partition this twice, and I partition this 3 times, now this has 12 pieces, and this has 12 pieces, and this is 3 out of 12, and this is 4 out of 12, and I can see that a third actually is a little bigger. It's 4 out of 12 instead of 3 out of 12, and that's a little bigger. And that was when they're really close and it's really hard to tell. That's your strategy. Today's going to be a lot simpler situation. Sometimes they're not even close at all, and I want to teach you a little trick, a way that you can explain yourself and not have to do a whole lot of math when they're not close like this. So check this out. 4/5 and 2/6, those are not particularly close. If I map those out on a number line, 4/5, let's see, 0. Don't forget your 0 and 1. Remember, that's how I tricked a lot of you. So I put those there. Fifths, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fifths. So 4/5 is way over here. 2/6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2/6 is way over here. Right, and I want to give you a way to, the number lines take a while, but they work. So 3/6 would be a half. Right? 3 out of 6, that's half of the 6. So right in this area on my 2 number lines would be a half. And so what I can say is this, quick way you can justify this without even having done the math. If you could look at this and say, well, 4/5, I know that's more than a half, which it is. And 2/6, I know that's less than a half, and it is. That's all you'd have to say. You could just say quickly, without having done any math on here, since 2/6 is less than 1/2, and 4/5 is greater than 1/2, then 4/5 has to be greater than 2/6. Right? If I know this is more than a half, then I know it has to be more than anything that's over here on the less than a half side. It's just kind of obvious. And so when that's the case, when you've got something that's more than a half and less than a half, we call 1/2 here a benchmark fraction. It's like an easy fraction that helps people know kind of where they are on the number line. And that's why I have to say, well, this is more than a half, this is less than a half, so I know that this has to be more than a half. All right, let's do one together. Okay? So I can look at these, same situation. I can tell, and again, if this strategy doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, all the other strategies still work fine for these problems. You could still do fraction bars, you could still do number lines, you can still do fraction circles, you can still do the drawings. I'm just trying to give you a way to save time on certain questions. So I know that I can look at that and just say that that's less than a half. I can tell. I know that 2/4 equals 1/2, and so I can just tell that's less than a half. Because halves are kind of easy for me to figure out in my head, right? Same thing, 2/3, I can just look at and tell you that's more than 1/2. I know if I make my number lines, I'll do it real fast. In my head, I can say, okay, if 0's here, 1's here, here's 1/3, 2/3. Half would be between them. It's halfway between 0 and 1. There's a half. And so I can see that in my head and just say, okay, I know that just looking at the numbers, I can tell that's more than a half, and I can tell that's less than a half. And all you have to do, if that's the case, is say, well, since 2/3 is more than a half, and 1/4 is less than a half, then 2/3 must be greater than a fourth. And that's how it works. So again, that's only a strategy I recommend if you're good at telling if a fraction is more or less than a half. And if one is more and one is less, then that's all you have to say. If you want to write in your notes 1/2, you're going to call that a benchmark fraction. It's easy because everybody, when you say a half, you can just see that in your head on the number line. And a lot of times it's just used as an easy reference point to do these kind of comparisons. So again, this makes sense to you. It's a great strategy to quickly compare two fractions and not have to do any work. If this doesn't totally make sense, watch it again. Watch the video again. Watch the I do. Watch the we do. It doesn't totally make sense. This is never a strategy you have to use. It's just a nice shortcut once in a while. So once you've got this written down, once you feel like you got a handle on it, you're all set, and I'll see you tomorrow.